INFJs are known for being quiet, kind, and deeply thoughtful. On the surface, they don't seem like the type to get involved in conflict. They avoid drama, they dislike confrontation, and they often let things slide just to keep the peace. But if you think this means they're weak or easy to fool, you're making a big mistake. Behind the calm and soft personality is a mind that's constantly watching, learning, and planning. INFJs are introverted and intuitive, which means they notice things other people miss. They pick up on emotions, patterns, and behavior. They understand how people work, and they use that information to protect themselves, and sometimes to shut others down without anyone realizing what just happened. INFJs don't fight back in the way most people expect. They won't yell. They won't argue in public. They won't try to win over a crowd. Instead, they use quiet tactics that hit deeper and last longer. They remove their energy, expose weaknesses with silence, or make strategic moves that completely throw off the other person's plan. Some people never even realize they've been outplayed until it's too late. This video will break down 6 smart tactics that INFJs use to deal with enemies. These are not aggressive or cruel actions. They are protective strategies, ways the INFJ mind handles threats while staying calm, focused, and true to its nature. Whether it's avoiding a toxic person, ending a fake friendship, or responding to manipulation, INFJs have their own way of winning. And often, it's by never playing the game the other person expects. Let's take a closer look at these powerful, subtle moves and why they work so well in the hands of an INFJ. Tactic number 1. Strategic withdrawal. When an INFJ feels attacked, betrayed, or disrespected, their first move is often not to argue or fight. It's to step back. This might look like ignoring someone, going silent, or disappearing from a situation. To others, it may seem like they've given up or backed down. But in reality, this is a calculated tactic. INFJs withdraw not because they're afraid, but because they're preparing. During this quiet phase, INFJs are paying attention to everything. They're thinking about what was said, what wasn't said, what the person might be trying to do, and how it connects to past behavior. They don't just react, they reflect. They put the pieces together, look for patterns, and figure out the true motivation behind the other person's actions. This gives them a major advantage, because while the other person might be acting out of anger or impulse, the INFJ is already thinking 3 steps ahead. Strategic withdrawal also gives INFJs time to calm down and sort through their emotions. They feel things deeply, and they know that reacting in the heat of the moment won't help. So instead, they pull back. They go quiet. They might stop texting, stop showing up, or create space. This space helps them separate their emotions from their decisions. It gives them control. While this is happening, the other person often starts to feel confused or uncomfortable. They may expect the INFJ to react, to fight back, or to try to fix things. But instead, they're met with silence. And in many cases, this silence speaks louder than words. It can make the other person rethink their actions or feel unsure about what's coming next. That's the power of the INFJ's withdrawal. It creates mystery, distance, and a sense of control. This tactic also protects the INFJ's energy. Conflict drains them quickly. Arguing or defending themselves over and over doesn't feel worth it. By stepping back, they stop feeding the situation. They stop giving the other person power. Instead, they focus inward, on their thoughts, their safety, and their next move. Strategic withdrawal doesn't mean the INFJ is done. It means they're regrouping. They might be deciding if the relationship is worth saving or if it's time to end it. They might be planning how to speak up later in a way that's calm but final. Or they might be choosing to walk away for good without saying a word. Whatever choice they make, it will come after careful thought, and it will usually leave a lasting impression. This tactic works because it gives INFJs something they value: space to think. They don't like being pressured into quick decisions. They don't want to fight just for the sake of it. What they want is clarity, and by pulling back, they get it. The people who try to provoke INFJs often don't realize what's happening. They mistake the silence for weakness. But in reality, it's a strong move. It's the INFJ saying, "I see you, I'm not going to play your game, and I'll decide what happens next on my terms." Strategic withdrawal isn't about running away. It's about taking control in a quiet, powerful way. Tactic number 2, emotional insight. INFJs have a natural gift for reading emotions. They can walk into a room and feel the mood almost instantly. They can sense tension, dishonesty, fear, or anger even when no one says a word. This is not just about noticing facial expressions or tone of voice. It goes deeper than that. It's like they feel what others are feeling, sometimes even before the person knows it themselves. This emotional insight gives INFJs a huge advantage when dealing with enemies. They don't need someone to explain their motives. They can often pick them up through patterns and emotional signals. And once they understand what drives a person, they can use that knowledge to protect themselves or respond in a way that hits where it matters. For example, if someone is trying to manipulate them through guilt, the INFJ will notice the emotional bait right away. Instead of falling for it, they will step back and recognize it for what it is. If someone is acting angry to hide fear, the INFJ won't be distracted by the loud voice. They'll see the insecurity underneath. This lets them respond with either quiet strength or emotional distance, depending on what's needed. Emotional insight also helps INFJs predict how people will react. They know which words might trigger someone, which actions might push them further, and when it's better to say nothing at all. This makes them very hard to manipulate, because they're always watching, not just what people do, but why they do it. This doesn't mean INFJs are cold or calculating. They care deeply about people, and they often want to help. But when someone shows signs of being dangerous, fake, or emotionally toxic, INFJs will shift into defense mode. They won't attack, but they will start using their emotional awareness to stay safe and stay ahead. Sometimes, they'll ask questions that seem innocent, but are actually meant to test someone's true feelings. Sometimes they'll mirror a person's emotions to build trust, only to later pull away when they see the truth. This subtle use of emotion lets them manage conflict without ever needing to raise their voice. One reason this tactic works so well is that most people don't expect it. They assume the INFJ is just being nice or quiet. They don't realize that behind the soft tone is a very sharp sense of what's really going on. And by the time they figure it out, the INFJ already has the upper hand. INFJs use emotional insight not to control others, but to understand them. That understanding lets them make better decisions, avoid emotional traps, and stay grounded, even when others are trying to throw them off balance. Tactic number 3. The INFJ door slam. The INFJ door slam is one of the most misunderstood actions this type takes, but also one of the most powerful. It's not done out of spite, revenge, or rage. It's a protective measure. When an INFJ slams the door on someone, it means they've reached a point of no return. Trust has been broken, respect has vanished, and the emotional connection has been cut off completely. This tactic doesn't happen easily. INFJs are patient, forgiving, and often willing to overlook a lot to keep peace. They give second chances, try to understand people's pain, and hope for change. But when someone continues to lie, hurt, manipulate, or disrespect their boundaries, something inside the INFJ shuts down. It's not a loud moment. There's no shouting or drama, just a quiet final switch off. When the INFJ door slam happens, the other person may not even realize it at first. Communication just stops. The messages go unanswered. The invitations are ignored. The INFJ disappears from their life without a clear goodbye. And unlike other types who might do this out of anger, the INFJ does it out of clarity. They have thought it through, they have weighed every angle, and they've decided that peace is only possible by ending the connection. This tactic is extremely effective because it's total. INFJs don't half-slam the door. When they're done, they are truly done. There's no going back. That silence creates impact. For someone used to the INFJ's empathy and support, the sudden absence hits hard. It forces the person to reflect, often too late, on what they did and what they lost. The door slam protects the INFJ from further harm. It ends a cycle that's been draining them. It also sends a message. Some behavior is not acceptable, and the INFJ will not stay where they're disrespected. That boundary is strong, and it gives them the freedom to heal, reset, and move forward. Sometimes people try to reopen the door. They apologize, make promises, or try to pull the INFJ back in. But once the line has been crossed, INFJs rarely revisit the connection. They don't hate the person, they just value their peace more. They remember the patterns, the manipulation, the way they felt, and they trust themselves enough not to repeat the cycle. The door slam is not about cruelty. It's about self-respect. It's about reclaiming energy that was being taken. INFJs know that some people don't change, some situations don't improve, and some battles are not worth fighting anymore. That quiet goodbye is one of the strongest moves they can make. No words, no drama, just a closed door and peace on the other side. Tactic number 4. Subtle manipulation. INFJs are not usually thought of as manipulative. They are warm, empathetic, and thoughtful. But in certain situations, especially when they feel threatened, they can use influence in very subtle, clever ways. This isn't about controlling others or lying. It's about guiding situations quietly, behind the scenes, using what they know about human behavior. INFJs understand people. They notice patterns, they remember emotional triggers, and they can sense how people will respond. When someone is trying to harm or control them, they don't respond with direct confrontation. Instead, they begin to shift things gently. They use language, silence, timing, and energy in ways that influence the outcome without being obvious. For example, if someone is trying to spread lies or twist a story, the INFJ won't start a public argument. Instead, they'll plant one strong truth in a conversation with the right person. That truth spreads on its own and slowly starts to change the perception. They know that being loud isn't the only way to be heard. If someone tries to guilt-trip them or make them feel small, the INFJ might respond with calm words that turn the guilt back around. They might say something like, "I understand why you feel that way," knowing it puts the emotional pressure back where it belongs, on the person trying to control the moment. Subtle manipulation is not something INFJs enjoy using. It's a last resort move used when direct communication fails. It's how they stay protected in situations where others refuse to be honest or kind. It's not about being fake, it's about being smart in a world that doesn't always respond to honesty. Sometimes INFJs use silence as a tool. If someone is pushing them for answers, pressuring them to agree, or trying to corner them, the INFJ might just stop responding. That silence makes the other person uncomfortable. It creates uncertainty. It shifts the power. And it gives the INFJ time to think while the other person starts to question their own position. They may also change their emotional tone on purpose. If someone expects them to be warm and gentle, the INFJ may become distant and flat. This change signals that something is wrong, without needing to explain it. It causes the other person to pause, adjust, or back down. What makes this tactic so effective is that it's hard to detect. People don't always realize that they're being redirected or de-escalated. They just sense that things aren't going the way they planned. That confusion works in the INFJ's favor. It's important to note, INFJs don't use this tactic for fun or to manipulate innocent people. They use it when someone is acting in a harmful way and traditional approaches have failed. It's how they protect themselves and others without starting a war. INFJs value truth, but they also understand that truth doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be placed in the right hands at the right time in the right way. And that's what they do with care, with thought, and with incredible precision. Tactic number 5, leveraging intuition. INFJs trust their intuition more than logic, facts, or outside opinions. It's not just a gut feeling, it's a built-in system of knowing. They can walk into a situation and sense what's really going on without needing proof. They pick up on energy shifts, small changes, and unspoken details. Their mind pieces it all together into a larger picture. This skill is one of their strongest tools in outsmarting enemies. While others are focused on what's being said or shown, INFJs are tuned into what's missing, what feels off, and what doesn't match. They notice when someone's words don't match their eyes, when a group's tone changes, when something just doesn't add up. That intuition helps them avoid traps before they're even visible. If someone is setting them up for failure, the INFJ usually knows before it happens. If someone is pretending to be friendly but hiding bad intentions, the INFJ will sense it. This doesn't mean they always act right away, but they file the information away and watch. By the time others catch on, the INFJ already has a plan. INFJs also use this intuition to prepare. If they know they're going into a tough conversation, they'll rehearse the energy of it ahead of time. They'll imagine how the other person might respond, how the mood might shift, and how to guide it without letting things spiral. It's like playing mental chess with emotions and intentions instead of pieces. This forward-thinking approach makes them very hard to trick. They don't just react, they anticipate. They consider what's not being said. They think about what someone might do next. And they keep their own plans quiet until they're ready to act. In relationships, this means INFJs often see red flags early. They may not say anything right away, but they begin to shift their energy. They might test the other person, ask deeper questions, or pull back slowly. If things don't improve, they already know how to walk away. They don't need to wait for things to fall apart. They saw it coming a long time ago. This intuition also gives them an edge in group dynamics. They know who holds power in the room, even if it's unspoken. They sense when alliances shift, when opinions change, and when someone's about to cause trouble. With that knowledge, they can steer conversations, avoid traps, or protect others quietly. INFJs trust their inner voice because it rarely leads them wrong. Even when they can't explain it, they know when something's off. And they've learned that listening to that feeling often saves them from bigger problems down the road. In a world that values facts and logic, INFJs use intuition as their secret weapon. It helps them stay one step ahead, avoid unnecessary conflict, and quietly outsmart people who thought they had the upper hand. Tactic number 6, maintaining integrity. One of the most unexpected ways INFJs outsmart their enemies is by staying true to their values. While others might resort to lies, games, or pressure, INFJs hold the line. They don't just win the moment, they win the long game. And they do it by staying grounded in who they are. Integrity is a core part of the INFJ personality. They care about what's right, not just what's easy. Even in conflict, they rarely compromise their ethics. They won't stoop to another person's level. They won't play dirty to win a fight. This can confuse or frustrate their enemies, who expect retaliation or drama. But the INFJ's refusal to engage in toxic behavior is part of what gives them strength. When someone tries to manipulate or push them, INFJs often respond with silence, calm questions, or a firm boundary. They don't panic. They don't explode. They stay centered, and that response can be more powerful than any insult. It shows confidence, it shows clarity, and it leaves the other person with nowhere to go. By keeping their integrity, INFJs also earn the trust of others. Even when people don't fully understand them, they respect the way INFJs carry themselves. Over time, this builds quiet influence. INFJs don't need to prove themselves. They just keep showing up with honesty, empathy, and consistency. And in the end, that's often what wins respect, and sometimes even control, without needing to fight for it. Holding on to integrity also protects the INFJ from guilt. When they walk away from a toxic person or make a tough choice, they can do it knowing they stayed true to their beliefs. They don't have to look back with shame. They don't second-guess their actions. That self-respect becomes their shield. INFJs are not perfect. They get angry, frustrated, and emotional like anyone else. But when things get serious, they return to what matters: honesty, compassion, and personal truth. That's what makes them strong. That's what makes them different. And that's what gives them the power to outsmart their enemies without ever losing who they are. INFJs don't win fights with force, volume, or aggression. They win with silence, observation, honesty, patience, and insight. While others push forward loudly, INFJs step back, watch, and move with intention. Their tactics are quiet, but they're also deeply effective. They use strategic withdrawal to take back control. They use emotional insight to read between the lines. When needed, they shut the door completely. And if subtle influence or quiet planning is required, they handle it without making a scene. Through it all, they stay aligned with their values, never giving up their integrity just to win. That's what makes them dangerous in the most unexpected way. You might not even realize you've been outsmarted by an INFJ until it's already done. They have made their move while you were still speaking. They've seen the end of the conversation before it even began, and they've protected their energy, their truth, and their peace without needing to destroy anyone to do it. The INFJ's power doesn't lie in their voice. It lies in their vision, in their silence, in their choices. and in the way they refuse to play a game that's beneath them. So if you're wondering how an INFJ handles an enemy, the answer is simple. With thought, with care, and with a kind of quiet power that most people never see coming.